The Three Stooges. Moe, Larry, and Curly. And Shemp. And Joe. And Curly Joe. For the better part of 6 decades, they slapped, slammed, smacked, and socked their way into the hearts of millions. They'll always be best remembered for their work at Columbia Pictures, a collection of 190 short-subject films with titles like Violent is the Word for Curly, Boobs in Arms, All the World's a Stooge, and They Stooge to Conga. Speaking of that last, as far as I'm concerned, it's the quintessential Three Stooges short, and the one you should check out if you've never had the pleasure. It's got everything. Outrageous cartoon violence. Christ, my man Moe gets a climbing spike in the eye, and sparks fly from Curly's face at one point. Destructive tomfoolery. And even a few healthy jabs at Hitler.
I promise you today the destruction of the harbor. Heil! Heal! Rossman, skunk!
This was 1943, after all. All that being said, you might not realize that the Three Stooges brand lived on well into the 70s, after the tragic deaths of both Curly and Shemp Howard. In fact, some folks may remember the Stooges best as the aging hosts of their own cartoon show, The New Three Stooges. Christ, the trio even found its way back into the Saturday morning lineup a decade later with The Robonic Stooges, where Moe, Larry, and Curly, now voiced by Paul Winchell, Joe Baker, and Frank Welker, gain bionic superpowers and fight crime from their junkyard hideout. It should be no surprise, then, that the Stooges enjoyed a popular resurgence in the 1980s. It helped that the original Three Stooges shorts were the perfect length for TV stations eager to fill some dead air, mostly late at night. Throughout the 80s and into the 90s, the Stooges were a common sight on stations big and small.
Ta-da! And now, KPLR-TV, Channel 11 St. Louis presents those fabulous, fantastic, funny Three Stooges.
TBS was one of the most enthusiastic purveyors of stoogery, regularly airing something called the Three Stooges All-Nighter.
All night.
You laugh when you say that!
The Three Stooges All-Nighter begins at 11:05 Eastern tonight on TBS.
This is gonna end someplace!
It's not so surprising, then, that the Stooges starred in their very own video game in 1987. Its publisher, Cinemaware, had debuted the year prior with the genuinely impressive Defender of the Crown, which took full advantage of the Commodore Amiga's graphics capabilities and processing power. From the get-go, Cinemaware was in the business of pushing the envelope. Better graphics, better sound, better overall presentation than the other guys, and the Amiga was well suited for it. Other consoles and computers, not so much. Once the game was ported to other popular platforms like the Nintendo Entertainment System, a lot was lost in the translation. If all you've seen of Cinemaware is the NES port of Defender of the Crown, for instance, you might wonder what all the fuss was about. I mean, what's so special about a slow, cramped, muddy-looking return to the Middle Ages when you could be playing Battletoads or Contra? On the Amiga, though, Defender of the Crown shines. It's still slow and clunky, but all of a sudden you can see why this thing made such a splash. Cinemaware wasn't really in the business of making video games. It made what it called interactive movies. And while that meant you spent a lot of time staring at the computer screen doing nothing, no one seemed to mind much when the thing you were staring at looked so good. Cinemaware made other beautifully designed games like The King of Chicago, based on gangster movies from the 1930s, and SDI, a take on the infamous Star Wars system proposed by Ronald Reagan. It takes place 30 years in the future, 2017, at a time when both the United States and the Soviet Union have space-based defense systems, and the world is, of course, on the brink of nuclear war. But anyway, like I mentioned, in 1987 came The Three Stooges, another video game marketed as an interactive movie. You'll love the eye-popping graphics and animation. It's like starring in a Stooges movie. Inside the box, another box. See? It's all about the presentation. Cinemaware. All of a sudden, just like that, the name evokes the smell of popcorn, the grip of those sticky floors, the childhood thrill of a movie on the big screen. This is an object now, a thing, a totem. It's got weight. I can hold it in my hands and feel it. This box was going to sit on your shelf. It was going to occupy space in your home, in the real estate of your life. It had to be designed for that purpose, just as the game it contained was designed for its purpose. Hence the size, the artwork, the attention to detail. Inside, more goodies, aside from the floppies themselves, which are labeled Reel 1 and Reel 2, a nice touch. There's a Cinemaware product catalog, a quick reference card with installation instructions and controls, a product registration card, and a nice pamphlet detailing the history of the Stooges. It even reprints a letter Mo Howard's daughter sent to the developers, thanking them for a job well done. Even Joan Howard Moorer comments on Cinemaware's graphics, writing that the screens were filled with crisp, sharp details. The game starts off with one of the great practical jokes in the history of gaming. Defender of the Crown. I didn't pay for Defender of the Crown. I thought I was playing in come Larry, Curly, and Moe.
Hey, this looks like a kid game. You idiots! Oh!
Isn't that just the cutest thing? The game then pays tribute to the old Stooges formula, right down to a digitized rendition of the old title card and theme song. The plot, if you can call it that, is about as thin as it gets, but it's worth remembering. The old Stooges shorts were never Hamlet either. There's an orphanage, an old lady, her 3 daughters, and an evil banker. The lady's problem is that she's behind on rent. The banker's problem is that he's an asshole, and the daughter's problem is that they aren't getting enough nookie. Enter the Stooges. The old lady needs someone to raise some cash, so Mo volunteers the trio. No doubt with an eye toward that nookie. Playing as the Stooges, you've got 30 days to raise $5,000, enough to pay the mortgage on the house. Raise $10,000, the old bag pays the mortgage and renovates the ramshackle old shack. Raise $15,000 and you marry the buxom blondes. The Stooges, for all their mirth and merriment, apparently live in a capitalist hellscape where the poor live in a state of perpetual serfdom, paying landowning squires their requisite tithing or dying on the street, a place where love is non-existent and even the basest human interaction has been commodified beyond all recognition. In other words, the Stooges world is our own, and we are the Stooges. Man, this got depressing in a hurry. Cue the slapping and eye-poking. Yes, slapping, punching, and eye-poking are part of the game, accompanied by digitized voice samples.
Oh! You missed me. You idiots! Oh! You idiots! Oh! Oh!
As far as I can tell, the slapstick doesn't serve any real function. It doesn't advance the game or bring you closer to your goal, but it is good for distracting you from the bleak, dreary, dismal oppression of a life lived under late-stage capitalism. Huh, here we are again. Shouldn't we be doing something about all of this? Anyway, the game operates something like a board game, with a heavy emphasis on randomization. Each day offers you a new chance to net some cash by playing a minigame. All of them based on classic Three Stooges shorts from back in the day. The hospital sequence is based on the film Men in Black. You move the joystick up to accelerate, down to brake, and left and right to avoid obstacles. You earn money by making it to the operating room with time to spare, and by collecting medical supplies the nurse ahead of you is perpetually shedding. You do battle against a live oyster in a bowl of stew in the cracker-eating minigame. Man, how often do you get to say that? Do battle against a live oyster in a bowl of stew in the cracker-eating minigame. Sounds like something I'd say on my deathbed, hopped up on painkillers. You do battle against an oyster in a bowl of stew in the cracker-eating minigame. Anyway, the whole cracker-eating thing is based on the 1941 short, Dutiful But Dumb. The pie fight sequence is based on the film In the Sweet Pie and Pie, though the Stooges would reuse that particular gag in a number of films, including Half-Wit's Holiday and Pies and Guys. You control all Three Stooges as you chuck pies across the screen at a representative sampling of the bourgeois elite. I could make reference here to the ultimate futility of this exercise. The ruling class will continue to oppress the masses, even with whipped cream on their face, something like that. But I think I've made my point. The last minigame is the boxing game, based on the film Punch Drunks from 1934. You might expect a stoogified version of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out here, something a little more intense than pie throwing. But you don't play as Curly, the prize fighter. You play as Larry, who's hightailing it across a packed city street full of sleeping dogs, piled up newspapers, and random packing crates, for reasons I'm too lazy to explain. You have to make it back to the boxing match with the radio playing Pop Goes the Weasel before Curly's turned to mush by the reigning champ, Killer Kilduff. And that, believe it or not, is about the extent of it. You keep playing these 4 minigames and a couple of bonus rounds like Three Stooges trivia until you run out of time. And the game's ending, like I mentioned, is dependent on how much moolah you've managed to acquire. If there was any doubt about the sordid little setup we've got going here, the old lady spells it out. You have enough money left to marry my 3 beautiful girls. The next screen shows our 3 heroes alongside their new brides, complete with little floating hearts. How creepy is that? I'm not saying no one has ever married for money, but the Stooges have been through a lot. You would have hoped the 3 of them would find true love, or something close to it, or at least a really great lay, not this. And this is the good ending. So that's the Three Stooges for Amiga. A cute little collection of minigames with some nice graphical flourishes and real digitized voice samples. Just the thing for computer nerds who also like to see people get hit over the head repeatedly. But before we go, we have to address the turd in the punch bowl. The Amiga is not where most people will have played or been exposed to the Three Stooges by Cinemaware. No. If you've heard of this game, then you've probably heard of the NES version, released for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1989. And that's a shame. For the Amiga, this game had a reason for existing. It pays tribute to the Stooges in its own cutesy, clumsy, limited way. As Computer Gaming World wrote, it's a piece of living memorabilia. The Games Machine even called it a masterpiece in FX and presentation. None of that, and I mean none of that, is true of the NES version. It boggles the mind, but here we are, the Three Stooges for NES. Predictably, everything looks and sounds a heck of a lot worse. If the Three Stooges for Amiga was a masterclass in presentation, this is more like remedial English. In fact, the NES here is like the student in remedial English you can't help but feel sorry for. He's trying his best, but baby, he just ain't built for this shit. First, there's this. What the hell is Curly doing with his right arm? In the Amiga version, it's clear that he's dropping crackers into his soup. But to your average NES player, especially a young one who probably hasn't seen this particular Three Stooges short from 1941, what is this supposed to look like? What the hell are they looking at? Why try and push the hardware into duplicating graphics it can't possibly duplicate to the point where you lose the fact that Curly's eating crackers at all? I'm not even gonna mention what the oysters look like. Then there's the boxing sequence. Oh man. In the Amiga version, you had two possible positions for Larry, up or down. It was limited, but it made dodging the obstacles sort of like a 16-bit version of rock, paper, scissors. It wasn't great, but it was playable. On the NES, they've given you more control over Larry, and it absolutely wrecks the thing. You might think I'm trying to run into stuff just for giggles. No, I can't stop Larry from running into everything on screen. And I'm in a hurry, because this time, Killer Kill Duff isn't just a big Irish guy with a probable drinking problem. He's a boxing glove the size of a Buick. God damn it! There are more things wrong with the Three Stooges for NES, but I'll leave it at that. I feel bad, like I'm picking on the slow kid in class. The one they don't allow around scissors. The Stooges have fallen off the radar a bit in recent decades. Whereas they used to be a common sight on TV, nowadays, seeing their greatest hits on the boob tube is pretty rare. There was that Three Stooges feature film, which many may want to forget. But hey, at the very least, it had Kate Upton playing a nun in a bikini, which so scandalized the Catholic League, it encouraged its members to contact 20th Century Fox. And anything that upsets the Catholic League is a win in my book. And hey, at least Dudes and Dudettes will always have They Stooge to Conga.
Get your nose on there. Move!